So welcome everyone. My name is Neil Patel. I am a first-year doctoral student at Kane's Combined School and Clinical Psychology program, and I'm going to present today on stress management. If throughout the presentation, if anyone has any questions, any concerns, if anyone wants to spit out anything, just put your hand out there or say something, I'm perfectly okay with it. And this is kind of the way I like to do presentations. Is kind of have to be more interactive in form, because I feel that way you learn better. And going on to stress management, I feel like it's more something that, especially in this time, our generation, it's something very important. It's a skill that everyone should have. And I feel like we put you in school, we put you through different courses, but we don't teach you how to manage the stress that you have in those coursework. And there's a skill that's going to dictate a lot of what you do in the future. Stress management, it's not just about the academic setting. It matters in your career, your relationships, and basically every facet of your life. And so, I want you to take something out of this presentation that, you will kind of apply to your own life. It could be something small, it could be something that you heard, something someone else said, but take something out of it that you'll go home, think about it, and try to apply it in your life. Okay. So what is stress? We learn about stress in school. Feels like an abstract concept, but stress has both psychological and biological components. It's kind of a distress, to some kind of change that we might experience in life. It could be future-oriented as well. You could be stressed about something that hasn't even occurred. So for instance, I'll give you a personal example, that I was stressed about going to get my wisdom teeth out. That hasn't occurred yet, but that's something that you're stressed about. It's interfering with your daily routine life, your thoughts, your behaviors, your relationship with everyone else. So yeah. And stress, you can see stress when someone's ordinary behaviors in life, they're out of tune, they're out of sync. And some instances are when someone who's really stressed can't sleep enough at night, or they might oversleep, or you'll see it. Our media really shows that people who are stressed, you'll see them like eat a lot of food or not eat enough, and you see that through media, through television and other instances. Let me see if I can. I'm gonna show you this video. Just look at the video. Keep in mind something that you like, and I'll ask you some thoughts that you have about it.
Wir bitten Sie kurz um Ihre Aufmerksamkeit. Die Behörden suchen folgende Person. Weiblich, ca. 1,65 groß. Die Gesuchte trägt eine hellgraue Jacke und einen großen Schal. Wenn Ihnen diese Person auffällt, verständigen Sie bitte umgehend das Flughafenpersonal.
Und bitte! Guten Morgen, meine Damen und Herren, ich begrüße Sie zu den N24 Breaking News. Die Polizei bittet um Ihre Mithilfe. Dringend gesucht wird diese Frau. Sie befindet sich seit gestern Vormittag auf der Flucht. Die Verdächtige ist ca. 1,65 Meter groß, hat dunkelblondes, lockiges Haar und trägt eine helle Jacke. Die Flüchtige gilt als unberechenbar und äußerst gefährlich. Bitte versuchen Sie nicht, die gesuchte Person festzuhalten oder gar anzusprechen. Für Hinweise zur Ergreifung der Verdächtigen wählen Sie bitte die unten eingeblendete Nummer. Wir melden uns wieder zu den Hauptnachrichten zur vollen Stunde und bis dahin noch einen schönen Tag.
Ich bin auf der Zeitung.
großer Tasche bei sich. Männlich ca. 1,80 groß. Der Gesuchte trägt eine beige Hose, ein lila Pulli und eine braune Jacke.
Dringend gesucht wird diese Frau. Sie befindet sich seit gestern Vormittag auf der Flucht. Die Flüchtige gilt als unberechenbar und äußerst gefährlich.
Guten Morgen. Sind Sie gestresst? Sie sehen so gestresst aus. Da hätten wir was für Sie.
Oh mein Gott.
Wollen Sie es mal ausprobieren?
I'm not endorsing Nivea cream or anything like that, but think about what are some signs of stress that you saw in that video. Can anyone point out any? What are some? Her face turned red. You saw some facial features. I bet someone was perspirating. You see, imagine what their heart rate might have been. It might have been skyrocketed. You see the person got up. He's panicking, freaking out. So these are just some signs of stress. And the point of this video, I feel like it's, you can recognize other people's stress. How can you recognize your own stress? What can we do that might help us recognize our own stress? That takes a lot of internal reflection, takes time to do that. But over time, if we try over and over again, we'll be able to recognize when we are stressed. And I feel like that's a key factor in managing stress, is recognizing when you are stressed. So some common signs that we're stressed: pounding heart rate. Some people say that when they're stressed, they're feeling like they're having a heart attack or a panic attack. Your heart rate's going out of the roof. Some people say that they might feel that they're shaking. One of the common ones is their inability to make decisions. So how many of you have experienced stress during an exam and feel that that impacted your performance? It's because you're mentally and physically, your body's using so many resources on that stress that you can't make those decisions. So a large part of managing stress is being able to control those elements so that you can make informed decisions on an exam, especially. There's also lack of focus, hyperactivity. We talked about some changes in eating patterns and sleep patterns. Have you noticed some people bite their nails when they're stressed? Some new concepts that I've seen, there's a lot of binge watching TV. A lot of people watch Netflix shows over and over again when they're stressed. I personally watch a lot of YouTube videos when I'm stressed. So there's a lot of factors that you have to take into account when someone's stressed. And for me, personally, if I watch a lot of YouTube videos, I have to recognize that this is a form of how I'm trying to manage the stress. That's not working. It's not working because I'm taking away time from my studying, taking away time from doing presentations or doing something else. And over time, yeah, that's kind of avoiding dealing with the stress, but at some point I'm going to have to actually sit down and deal with the stress. So I have one more video. See, I'm showing you YouTube too, right? This is how... the guy through his little journey through school, and you saw how some statistics up there have how stress has changed over the years, and how mental health has become a real big issue nowadays, especially with students experiencing a lot of anxiety, depression, and you see that although the motivation's still there, that people are motivated to do well in school, that the mental health is still lacking, and there's not a balance between that. And so a lot of that is our inability to understand stress, our inability to understand how to manage stress, and our inability to not seek help when we need to. So those are a lot of factors that you have to consider when talking about stress. So some potential stress triggers: increased responsibility. Everyone, when they enter the college environment, you also have family issues at home, you might have jobs, but also your academic stress takes a skyrocket. It skyrockets. You have more assignments, more responsibility in school, and more responsibility outside of school as well. You're going to have to go home, you got to catch up on a lot of readings. There's also major life changes that people go through that causes stress, such as a marriage, a divorce, relationship troubles, childbirth, death of someone. Also, when you're relocating, you might be moving from somewhere in the middle of the country to here. The environment changes. That environment change is going to cause you stress. Also, financial pressures. We're in a college environment. We're not making as much money as we would like to make. So how to balance our desires outside of school, what we want to buy, what we want to get. You want that nice house or that nice car, and you can't do that because you're paying for school, you're in loans. So there's a lot of stress involved financially, and also natural and man-made disasters. You can see after incidents of 9/11 and all the terrorist attacks that's been going on since, people are stressed from it. They live in fear. So these are just some of the triggers of stress that we experience throughout the daily life. So, importance of stress management. Stress is, like I've been saying, stress is a completely normal thing. It's not, we as a society kind of have it in a negative connotation that stress is bad, but it's a relatively normal part of our lives. And everyone at some point in their life is going to be dealt with stress. Doesn't matter if you're in school, it doesn't matter if you're working, you're going to be dealt with stress somehow. And so for your own psychological and physical well-being, you're going to need to learn how to cope with that stress. And hopefully out of this presentation, you take some idea back that's going to help you with that. So learning to manage stress. First, we talked about how there are signs of stress, so you're going to have to understand how to recognize your own stress. But at the same time, you want to recognize the circumstances that triggered your stress for you, and applying those stress management techniques to help you cope. Breaking it down into steps is going to help you manage stress. It's not going to be a one-day solution. You're going to have to work on it consistently. You can't give up at the same time. So, talking about stress, how might stress be useful? Any ideas, anyone? Any thoughts? How might stress be useful? We have a negative connotation with stress. Whenever someone throws the word out stress, people perceive it negatively. People perceive it as something that's affecting your life negatively. How might stress be positive? Yes. Yeah. So it motivates you, keeps you on track of your assignments. Anyone else? Yeah, so it kind of gets you over that hump that you might be at. So we should keep this in mind when we're dealing with stress, that it's not a bad thing. Imagine life without stress. Everyone would be perfectly happy, but at the same time, there would be no motive in life. What would get you to get out of bed, do what you want to do? Nothing really. So we need that stress. So let's talk about some stress management techniques. A lot of people there's a big movement on meditation and mindfulness. That's one of the techniques that I've been learning a lot about, and it kind of has to deal with a lot of present moment focus. A lot of stress deals with future oriented, how like I was telling you about the dentist, how that's a future event. Why don't we take a step back and focus on the present moment? And if you do that, you'll be able to tackle your stress more effectively. And so a lot of these techniques help you focus on the present moment. Deep breathing, meditation, if having your body awareness, having that ability to understand that you're breathing in and out, puts you back into the present moment focus. And a lot of these techniques, when you're working on the present moment, you're not going to be worried about too far into the future. You'll focus on one task at a time, one goal at a time. Exercise. So how many of you exercise on a regular basis? I mean, honestly, how many of you regular exercise? You know, it's tough, but exercise has two benefits. You know, one benefit is keeping your mind off of things, right? Which might seem a benefit, but at the same time, it might not. Also, it has a biological basis behind it. Biological basis in the sense that nutrition and exercise both work to keep your body prepared. So when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling that heart rate, when you're feeling the perspiration and all these physical factors, if you're physically healthy, those factors will not bother you as much because your body is in that state. You're able to be durable at that state. So a lot of things that we have to deal with, you know, such as balanced diet, be hydrated, it has psychological benefits and physical benefits at the same time. And avoiding alcohol. Alcohol provides short-term solution. Might seem, you know, let's say I have a presentation to do or an exam. Let me go home and drink a certain amount of alcohol. That's going to take the problem away for the period that I drink that alcohol. I'm going to wake up the next morning, probably still have that problem, and probably be hungover at the same time. So you're adding a different element into it, you know. So alcohol might seem a short-term solution, but it's not. It's just piling things on eventually. Sleep. How many of you try to get at least 8 hours of sleep? Try. Okay? The majority of us don't. You know, I personally have a rule. You know, I study a lot, I read a lot, but I have a cutoff. I cut anything, doesn't matter what exam, presentation, I stop at 1:45. My brain can't take anything more after that. And there's a reason behind it. Research shows that, you know, your brain needs time to consolidate things. So especially if you're studying or if you're working on something, your brain needs that time to consolidate your memories so that you can remember them the next day when you need to. And research has shown that those individuals who sleep more are going to be able to remember more. It's simple. Also, take shorter breaks throughout the day. So, also, I have a policy. You know, it changes from time to time, but you know, I try to keep it as consistent as I can. For each hour and a half that I study or work on something, I try to give myself a 10-15 minute break. Does anyone think of a reason why that might reduce my stress? Exactly. You know, it's giving you that small motivation, giving that small reward that's going to kind of carry you throughout. If I give myself, if I have a 10-hour project and I work consistently in 10 hours, I'm going to lose my mind. There's nothing that's going to, there's no reward at the end that's going to keep me sane enough for that 10 hours. At the same time, let's say if I do 2 hours or an hour and a half of work, take 10 minutes, you know, go walking, go watch some TV, you know, go talk to a friend, that's going to motivate me to keep going at it. And believe me, that's going to keep you retention-wise, that's going to affect you much more better. And your stress over time is going to reduce. And you should always allow your mind to rest periodically. So, talking about major projects, let's say you have a paper. Papers are the worst. I feel papers are the worst because they feel insurmountable. So let's say I'll give you a personal example. I have a dissertation. That's going to be a very intimidating, very frightful thing that I have to get through. Now, if I wait until my 5th year to do it, there's no way I'm going to be able to do it. Not going to happen. But I can start now. I can start working on some ideas, start breaking that project into the parts. That's going to reduce my stress over time. If I imagine the stress that I would have at the 5th year, I have no idea what I'm doing, no committee member, nothing, I would probably consider dropping out. So like it's very stressful at that point. But if I do break it apart into small parts, and I take my time doing it over the next 4 years, it's gonna be manageable, and that's gonna make it much easier for me to achieve that goal at the end of it. So also you want to track your progress toward goal accomplishment. So what that means is, let's say you have a bunch of assignments that you're really stressed about. Track where you're not achieving enough. You know, let's say you have a bunch of reading assignments and there's one book that you've tried to read that you just can't make any progress. Write about it. Because if you write about it, you know that this is a deficiency that you have. You're going to do something about it. That's going to take some stress away from you. And also reward yourself for the progress that you made. Journaling. Keeping a journal is a good way, A lot of the thoughts that we have that deal with stress, they're all in the back of your head. So having it out written in a concrete form doesn't seem as much intimidating. So I have a dissertation in the back of my head. But if I see it on paper, it's not as intimidating because you can visualize it. When you visualize something, you can achieve it. And so it makes it a great way to recognize circumstances and patterns that lead to stress reactions. And writing down your stressors can be a great way to manage them effectively. Proactive communication. So you really want to reach out to people important in your life, resources. You have a bunch of resources here at Kane that will help you manage that stress. Maybe you have that parent or that friend that you go to during certain circumstances, and it's a good thing. It's a good habit to have. Rather than suffer inside by yourself. Why not reach out to somebody? They will probably give you a better opinion about something than you probably can, because their opinion is not biased. Yours is going to be biased. They're going to see some problem, some event in a different way than you will. So dealing with circumstances with friends or confidence is gonna lower your stress. And it feels good sometimes to tell someone your problems. That's what I do for a living. I tell people my problems. And so it feels good. It's not as stressful as it seems. And seeking counseling and therapy. There's a stigma associated with going to seek help. I don't know who created the stigma, but doesn't it seem reasonable to go seek someone for help? Especially someone professional, someone who's trained in it. That seems reasonable to me. There shouldn't be any stigma associated with it. And working with someone who's qualified, will probably most likely lead to the best outcome for your stress. And so at Kane, we have the counseling center, we have psychologists, we have therapists, we have licensed counselors, we have school psychologists, everything. And so you have these resources here at your disposal, and you can use them. You have academic coaches, you have everything. And it's free, too. That's the best part about it. And once you step out of here, you're going to be paying hundreds of dollars to see a therapist or a counselor. I know I'm trying to aim to be a psychologist, so I'm going to be collecting that. That's fine with me, but while you're here, you can take those resources seriously. They have no selfish reasons. They want to help you. That's their aim. And dealing with circumstances, a lot of times it might seem much easier to just avoid the problem, just take a step back and run away. But at the same time, the problem's not going to leave. It's going to be there at the end of the day. And so what matters is how you effectively deal with the problem. If you keep avoiding your problems, even in the academic setting, what does that mean in terms of your career, or in terms of your relationship with other people? how are you gonna deal with those circumstances? Are you gonna continue to avoid them, or will you, tackle them? It seems scary at times, but that's what I'm saying. Break it apart. If you break it apart, it's not as scary. It's not as difficult to deal with. And time management. This I feel dictates a lot of stress. I underlies a lot of stress in the academic environment. How do you effectively manage time? If we're able to manage our time effectively, stress doesn't seem insurmountable. It's doable. It's achievable. And time management, I believe, it's a skill that you can, if you can conquer it, you will have no problem. It doesn't matter what career path you choose, where you go in life. If you can effectively manage your time, you should be able to succeed anywhere you go. And a lot of time management is, having organizational skills, prioritizing, learning to say no to someone. It's a hard thing to do. But understanding that if I have a project due, I need to organize my time, my schedule, so that I can get that thing done. Doesn't matter what else is out there or what else I can give my attention to. What matters most, I can do. But at the same time, you can give yourself that time. Give yourself that half day on the weekend to go do whatever you need to. Go shopping, go to the movies or something. And so, if you can master this, everything else seems achievable. And so, let's talk about which technique works for you. What technique would you take out from here and try to apply it in your life? What technique seems most compatible with you? There's different techniques out there. We listed close to 10. Which technique will you try to apply in your own life? And I actually have a stress scale where I'll pass it out. And here, you can just take it from here. And this scale is, it's used a lot in psychology research. And it's a lot about your stress at the present moment. This doesn't dictate what your stress is going to be throughout the week, throughout the month. It doesn't dictate that. So take it as something that you can use to understand where you are in terms of your stress right now. And then we'll talk about what technique that you can use to reduce this number that you achieve. And you'll see that if you're trying to score it at the end, there's 4 numbers, items number 4, 5, and 7, and 8, which are reverse scored. And all that means is that an answer for number 4 of a 4 is actually a 0 point. And you'll see on the back the norm table, where you'll see the average stress for males, females, of your age group, a race. And don't take it as factual information, it's just an instinct. This is norm data. But see if you could take this stress at a different time in your life, when you're not in the academic environment, when you're at home or on vacation. You'll see that the number is going to change, because stress changes. You'll see question 4, 5, 7, and 8 are reverse scored. So a 0 response on those is going to be a 4, counts as 4 points. For number 8, or if you have a score of 4, it counts as a 0. 2, a response of 2 is going to stay the same. So questions 4, 5, 7, and 8 are reverse scored. So if you have a response of 4 for, let's say, question 8, that's going to be scored as a 0. And if you have a score of 0, that will be scored as a 4. And a 2 is going to be a 2 still. And so if you add it up, you'll see where your stress lies in comparison to the norm. It might be high, might be at the average. You'll see that the standard deviation, 6, around 6-ish. So if it falls within that standard deviation, you should be okay. You're around the mean. But if it's higher, let's think about what techniques that you would like to use to reduce that stress. I listed close to 10 techniques up there, probably more. I would see if you can take one of these techniques with you and apply it. And I just want to normalize stress. It's not a scary thing. It's completely normal. Everyone experiences. I've experienced it. I've been in the same steps as you have. I've gone through the same procedure. I went through undergrad. I was at Rutgers University, and as a sophomore, I took courses. I was a pre-med major originally, and I did all my courses, and didn't like it. I didn't perform as well, and I was very highly stressed at that point. I was in the middle of my college career, not knowing where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do with my life. And so what I did, I sought out help. I went to an advisor. I went to a counselor to see what I can do about my career. And they gave me advice. And you can see, from that moment to where I am now, I perceive stress differently. I don't see stress as something negative or something that's an obstacle in my life. I accept stress. And when I accept stress, I can do something about it. Rather than worry too much about what negative impact it's going to have on my life, I accept that stress, I learn to cope with it, and take action. That's the main point of this presentation, was learn about your stress, cope with it, and let's take some action. And if anyone has any questions, just let me know.